Hello, boys and girls. It's language arts time. Are you ready for some fun? Yes, I know you are. So let's get right into
Hello,
our
boys and
lesson for
This is Miss
today.
Nadia here with your language arts read aloud for this week. I will model the reading of our traditional tale that we'll be looking at. The title of this traditional tale is Tata Duende's Children. Have you heard about Tata Duende before? Anything? Do you want to share anything about Tata Duende? Okay, you can type your little information on our WhatsApp chat group or in Google Classroom. But I just want to give you a little overview of who Tata Duende is. Tata Duende, or El Dueño del Monte, is a supernatural creature appearing in cultural folklore stories. Mostly, Tata Duende is evident in the Mayan and Mestizo culture. Tata Duende is considered a powerful spirit that protects animals and the jungle. Tata Duende, boys and girls, like I said, he is considered to be a powerful spirit that protects animals and the jungle. Tata is a Mayan word for old man. Duende is Spanish for goblin or ghost. Do you really think that Tata Duende's children will be a realistic story or a science fiction? Well, of course, it won't be any of those. Like I said earlier, this story is a traditional tale. If you have any other information or stories that you want to share about Tata Duende, feel free to do so. Are you ready for the read aloud today? Okay, I hope you are. Let's begin. Tata Duende's Children. Many years ago, in a small house on the edge of a forest, a young girl called Rosalita was singing softly as she swept the veranda. Her mama was busy in the kitchen. Her papa was chopping woods nearby. Suddenly, Rosalita had the impression that she was being watched. She felt compelled to lay down her broom. Then, as if in a dream, she stepped off the veranda and walked into the forest. At that moment, the bird fell silent and the family dog, Pepito, began to howl. Mama wiped her hands on her apron and went to see what was wrong. On seeing the abandoned broom, she called out, "Rosalita, where are you?" But there was no answer. And although Mama, Papa, and their neighbors searched high and low for Rosalita, they could not find their only child. For many weeks, Papa neglected his work and went looking for his beautiful black-haired daughter. Mama ceased to cook. She sat all day on the veranda, leaping up when anyone passed by and imploring, "Have you seen my Rosalita? She has long black plaits to her waist." But the passers-by always shook their head and walked on. Until one day, nearly a year after Rosalita's disappearance, a stranger listened, scratched his head, and nodded. Long black plaits, you say?
Yes, I've seen her wandering in the forest very close by. Rosalita's mother sobbed her thanks and was about to race into the forest when the stranger caught her by the arms. Your daughter wasn't alone. When I saw her, she was with a duende and some other children. With Papa's help, Mama found Rosalita and brought her home. But her happy, light-hearted daughter has changed beyond recognition. Day after day, she sat on the veranda staring into the forest and lamenting on the loss of her brother and sister. Now, Rosalita was an only child, and Mama and Papa soon realized that she was pining from the other children that the duende had stolen. During her time in the forest, Rosalita had been an older sister to them. Hoping to hoping to relieve their daughter's distress, Mama and Papa left messages all over the forest asking the Duende to allow Rosalita to look after the children. A week later, one of the villagers stumbled onto the veranda carrying a large package wrapped in banana leaves. When the leaves were pulled back, the bodies of a young girl and boy were revealed. Mama wailed piteously. Her own daughter had been saved, but these other children seems to have met a terrible end. Rosalita remained strangely calm. The Duende has a lot of kindness in him, she whispered. He would not kill an innocent child. Gently she lifted the children out of their package and laid them out on a mat. To the astonishment of all except Rosalita, the children began to wiggle their little chubby fingers and toes. Then their eyes opened wide and lit up with delight at seeing their big sister Rosalita. Mama and Papa did their best to find the parents of these lost children, but all their efforts were in vain, so they adopted them as their own. They were a happy family, and only one thing was forbidden to the children. They were never allowed to venture into the forest alone. And that brings us to the end of the story for today.
She called out, Rosalita, where are you? But there was no answer, and although Mama, Papa, and their neighbors searched high and low for Rosalita, they could not find their only child. For many years, for many weeks, Papa neglected his work and went looking for his beautiful black-haired daughter. Mama has to cook. She sat all day on the veranda, leaping up when anyone passed by and imploring, Have you seen my Rosalita? She was long black plaits to her waist, but the passengers by always shook their heads and walked on until one day nearly a year after Rosalita's disappearance, a stranger listening scratched his head and nodded. Long black plaits, you say? Yes, I have seen her wandering in the forest very close by. Rosalita's mother sobbed her thanks and was about to race into the forest when the stranger caught her by the arm. Your daughter wasn't alone. When I saw her, she was with a duende and and other children. With Papa's help, Mama found Rosalita and brought her back home. Her happy, light-hearted daughter had changed beyond recognition. Day after day she sat on the veranda, staring into the forest and lamenting the loss of her brother and sister.
give you further details about the elements of the story, I want you to pay keen attention to a nice little jingle that I've selected. This jingle is about the elements or the parts of a story. So you need to listen to the song. After that, I will further explain in detail about the different elements that we will be looking at today. Okay, that's the song. Now, what we will do, I will go over each element of a story. The first one is the character. The character, boys and girls, are the individuals that the story is about. The character can be animals and it can also be humans or people. In every story, there is a character or characters, and what the author usually do is give the reader enough information about the character so that the reader can visualize exactly who the character or characters is or are. The second element that we will be looking at is the setting. The setting is the location of the action. An author should describe the environment or surrounding of the story in such detail that the reader can feel, that he or she can feel or picture the scene. Then the other part is the setting, not the setting but the plot. The plot, boys and girls, is the actual story. It is the actual story around which the entire book or short story is based upon. A plot should have a very clear beginning, middle, and the end. So remember, you need to listen carefully because today you will complete a graphic organizer by inserting these different elements, and then you will get a story that you will read, and you will find all of these elements in that particular story. So you need to listen carefully. The conflict or the problem. Every story has a conflict to solve. The plot is centered on this conflict and the ways in which the character attempts to resolve the problem. When the story's action becomes more exciting right before the resolution, it is called the climax. So you listen again carefully because you will be identifying conflict in a story. And the final element that we will look at is the solution or the resolution. The solution or the resolution is how the problem is solved. How the problem is solved. The solution to the problem is the way the action is resolved. For example, how did the family solve their problem after Rosalita had gotten home? What happened after? How did the story end? Okay, so you will have your activity that you need to complete for me. I will explain and give you examples before you start your individual work. Boys and girls, what you will do with your graphic organizer that I provided on Google Classroom, and I also sent in a printing package, you will fill your chart out with the story entitled The Sequoians. However, I want to give you a step-by-step guide as to how to go about filling out your graphic organizer with the correct information. For example, the character. Let's go back to the story entitled Tata Duende's Children. The characters in that story are Rosalita, Mama, Papa. Those are the main characters. However, they also have some minor characters in that story, such as Pepito. And yes, animal can be characters. Pepito, the neighbors, also the two children. So those are all the characters in the story Tata Duende's Children. Let's look at the setting. Where did this story happen? Can you tell me where? Yes, you are right. This story happened in the forest. But what about the time of the day? What time of the day? Maybe in the afternoon? Yes. And it happened many years ago. In the forest, many years ago. Now, when it comes to the plot, boys and girls, the plot is you outline all the so for the plot, you outline all the events in the particular story. So for example, what happens first? First,
Rosalita was sweeping the veranda. What happened next? After that, she disappeared. So you outline that. She disappeared. After she disappeared, what happens thereafter? After that, everyone was looking for her. So what happens afterwards? Then they receive information. They receive information about her whereabouts. So they receive information about her whereabouts. After that, Rosalita came home. After that, Rosalita came home. Then, when she arrived home, she wasn't her normal self. Then, what happens after? After the family, her mom and dad noticed that she wasn't her normal self, they knew that something was wrong, so they decided to find her brothers and sisters, her brother and sister that were also in the forest. And did that happen? Yes, it did happen. So after outlining the plot is events in the story. So we outline all the events in the story. Let's go to the conflict. What was the main problem in this story? The main problem. We already outlined the plot. So let's go to the main problem in this story. You are right. The main problem is Rosalita disappeared. So that's the conflict. Rosalita disappeared and no one knew anything about her whereabouts. So that's the problem. The main problem, she disappeared and nobody knew where she went. So that was the problem. And they wanted to solve this problem. How did they solve this problem? They started to look for Rosalita. So let's go at the resolution then. Let's move up a little bit faster. The resolution is how the problem is solved. How the problem is solved. First, the first problem, the first resolution in this story, boys and girls, Rosalita was found. Now, there was another situation. After she was found, she wasn't her normal self. And there was a reason why she wasn't her normal self. What's that reason? Of course, because she missed her brother and sister in the forest. So, did she end up reuniting with her brother and sister? Yes, she did. So, the other resolution is Rosalita's brother and sister was delivered. Okay, so Rosalita's brother and sister were delivered at her home wrapped in banana leaves. Okay, so she ended up reuniting with her brother and sister. Also, as a part of this resolution, Mama and Papa couldn't find their parents, so they end up adopting Rosalita's brother and sister. So They lived together as a family. So that's what happened. Now, using the story is so poignant, you will complete a graphic organizer just like this. Please remember that in the middle, you will put the title of the story. And the title of this story is Tata Duende Children. So, Miss Mejia will now give you your part of the duty. You will complete your graphic organizer. However, you will not use the story given to you this week. You are going to use your own story. And your story is the Sokoyan. It is similar to the Tata Duende story, only because your characters, your setting, your plot, your story title, your conflict, and resolution will all be different. Do you understand? If you do not understand and you need any further clarification, feel free to call me. You can always call me on WhatsApp or you can send me a message and I'll definitely give you further instructions. Have a great day, boys and girls.
Yes, and I will be showing you how I made my elements of a story map. Now, first of all, I started with the title Sokoyant. Then I made the simple basic box, and in each box there is the one element of a story. First one being the characters, second one being the settings, third one being the plot, the fourth one being the problem, and the fifth one being the resolution. First off, we're gonna start with the character. Here we go. Okay. So we're far in where we've done the farmer, the farmer's neighbor, the wicked old woman, and we're about to do the sequoia. So let's finish this off. Okay. We're done with the characters. That's scratched off the list. Now it's time to do the settings. Settings involves the places, the time, and after all, it's just where they were at in the problem. So we're gonna list that real quick. Be right back. We're back. After we've finished with the settings, because we just did, the pen, we've gotten so far the pen at the backyard, the village, at the shack, by the edge of the village. Those are all the settings that I could find in the story, but I'm sure there might be a little more. I'm not sure. I'm just saying these are the ones that I found. So far we've done the characters, the settings, and we've also done the basic box and the title of the story. All that we have to finish off is the plot and the problem. Then the final one, the resolution. I'm running out of my time, so I will just leave the final product in the picture. I've done halfway through, and I think this is been a pretty good so far. Thank you for listening in to my video on how I've been doing my elements of a story map, and I hope you guys have a good evening. Bye.
Morning, Miss. Today I will be presenting on the elements of a story. The title of the story is The Secondment. While I was reading in the story, the characters that they mentioned was the farmer, his neighbor, the villagers, and the secondment. place at the village. The plot of the story is that the Soconian suck blood to the animals and kill them, and people were getting sick. And one day a farmer went to protect the village with his neighbor from the Soconian, and the next day they went to the Soconian house. The problem that I found was that the Soconian was sucking blood and killing animals, and people were getting sick. And people didn't like that. The resolution is that all the villagers went to the Soconian house, and they put the Soconian in a barrel with they nail it, and they throw it to the water. And this is the element of story of the Sokonian. Thank you.